The Judgment and Exil Ambassador, Elena Rodriguez, stood in the center of the Unity Council's Grand Chamber. Her black diplomatic uniform, a stark contrast against the rainbow of alien forms surrounding her. The chamber itself was a marvel of engineering, a massive sphere suspended in space above. The capital world of Nexus 7. Crystalline walls allowed the light of 3 suns to filter through, casting dancing shadows across the assembled representatives. Of 47 different species, Alina had spent 12 years of her life working toward this moment, believing that humanity could find its place among the galactic community through diplomacy and cooperation. She had learned 17 different alien languages, studied the cultural nuances of dozens of species, and negotiated countless trade agreements. Today, all of that work felt hollow as she faced the council that was about to pass judgment on her entire species. High Chancellor Thekma rose from his elevated platform, his reptilian form towering 8 feet above the chamber floor. His scales shifted from deep green to warning yellow as he spoke, a biological display that Alina had learned to read as barely controlled anger. The translator implant behind her ear converted his hissing words into crisp English. The Unity Council has assembled to address the aggressive actions of the human species, Vecma announced, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic design. Specifically, the unprovoked attack on Dracta raiders in the Kepler system, resulting in the complete destruction of their fleet. Alina felt her jaw tighten. Unprovoked attack. That was how they described humanity's defense of innocent colonists against slavers and murderers. The Dracta had been raiding the outer colonies for months, taking civilians to sell in underground markets while the council debated proper response protocols. When the raiders hit the agricultural colony of Kepler Prime, killing 300 farmers and kidnapping twice that number, humanity had finally acted. Captain David Chen stood behind Alina, his military dress uniform bearing the ribbons of 3 colonial defense campaigns. She could feel his tension without turning around. Chen had led the rescue mission that saved the Kepler colonists, and he had personally witnessed the horrors the Dracta inflicted on their captives. The memory of those liberated prisoners, broken and traumatized, was enough to justify any action. In Elena's mind, the Veltori representative spoke next, her crystalline form chiming like wind bells as she moved. The human response was excessive and violent. The Dracta had legitimate salvage claims on abandoned resources in that system. Abandoned resources. Elena's voice cut through the chamber before she could stop herself. Those were farming communities with families, children, elderly people, who couldn't defend themselves. The Dracta murdered civilians and took prisoners as slaves. A ripple of disapproval moved through the assembled aliens. The aquatic Nereidi bubbled angrily in their environmental suits, while the insectoid Churak clicked their mandibles in what Alina recognized as disdain. Speaking out of turn was considered deeply disrespectful in council proceedings, but Alina was past caring about diplomatic protocol. High Chancellor Dekma S. Scales shifted to an even deeper yellow. The human representative will remain silent until called upon to speak. He gestured toward a floating holographic display that materialized in the center of the chamber. Evidence will now be presented. The display showed footage from the Kepler system battle, recorded by council monitoring stations. Alina watched as human ships emerged from hyperspace, their sleek designs cutting through the void with deadly precision. The Dracta raiders, caught in the middle of loading enslaved colonists onto their vessels, scrambled to respond. What followed was not a battle but an execution. Human tactical doctrine emphasized speed and overwhelming force applied at decisive moments. The Draktar fleet, designed for raiding defenseless targets, crumbled under the coordinated assault. Their ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light, debris scattering across the system as human rescue vessels moved in to recover the survivors. 17 Draktar vessels destroyed, announced the Veltari representative. Over 3,000 Draktar casualties. Not a single human ship was even damaged. This level of disparity indicates premeditated aggression, not defensive action. Alina wanted to scream. The Draktar were raiders, pirates, and slavers. They had terrorized the outer systems for decades, while the Council passed resolution after resolution condemning their actions, but never taking concrete steps to stop them. The only reason no human ships were damaged was because Captain Chen and his officers were professionals who had trained for exactly this type of rescue operation. The evidence presentation continued for 2 hours. Species after species rose to condemn humanity's actions, painting them as violent aggressors who solved problems through military force rather than diplomatic negotiation. The authorities spoke of human colonial expansion exceeding approved parameters. The ZEF showed data about human military buildup in border systems. The Creonal presented testimony about human traders refusing to follow traditional commercial protocols. Each accusation built upon the last, creating a picture of humanity as a species fundamentally incompatible with galactic civilization. Alina listened to the testimony and realized that the trial was a formality. The decision had been made long before she entered the chamber. The other species had grown uncomfortable with human success and were using the Kepler incident as an excuse to remove what they saw as competition. When the evidence phase concluded, High Chancellor Dekma called for testimony from the accused. Alina stepped forward, her voice steady despite the anger burning in her chest. Honored representatives, humanity came to the galactic community seeking friendship and cooperation. We have followed Council regulations, paid our membership dues, and contributed to joint scientific endeavors. We have offered aid during natural disasters, shared our technological innovations, and opened our worlds to cultural exchange. She paused, looking around the chamber at faces that showed no sympathy or understanding. The Kepler system raid was not the first attack on human colonies. It was simply the one where we finally said enough. 300 innocent people died while this council debated proper procedures. 600 more were taken as slaves while you formed committees to study the situation. The chamber erupted in angry translations. Several representatives began speaking at once, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of sound. Vekma struck a resonating gong to restore order. The human species shows no remorse for their actions, he declared. They justify violence through emotion rather than law. This behavior pattern threatens the stability of our galactic civilization. Alina felt Captain Chen shift behind her. She knew he wanted to speak, to defend their actions with military logic and tactical necessity. But she also knew it would not matter. The Council had made their decision based on fear, not facts. The Unity Council has voted, Dekma announced. Formally, by unanimous decision, the human species is expelled from galactic civilization. All human personnel must withdraw from Council space within 90 standard days. Any human vessels remaining after that deadline will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. The chamber filled with sounds of approval. The various species expressed their satisfaction in their own ways. creating a symphony of alien celebration that felt like mockery to Elena's ears. She stood perfectly still, absorbing the full impact of what had just happened. Humanity had been exiled from galactic civilization. "Do you have any final words, Ambassador Rodriguez?" Dekma asked, his scales now shifting to a satisfied blue-green. Alina looked around the chamber one last time, memorizing the faces of the species that had just declared war on her people. Without realizing it, when she spoke, her voice carried clearly to every corner of the vast space. "You believe you are protecting galactic civilization by casting us out. You think exile will force humanity to retreat to our home systems and accept a diminished role among the stars." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You are making a mistake. Humanity does not retreat. We adapt, we overcome, and we remember." She turned and walked toward the exit, Captain Chen falling into step beside her. Behind them, the alien representatives continued their celebration, unaware that they had just made the greatest tactical error in galactic history in the shuttle bay. Alina finally allowed her diplomatic mask to slip. Chen saw the exhaustion in her eyes and the weight of failure on her shoulders. "Ma'am, what are your orders?" he asked quietly. Alina looked out the viewport at the beautiful alien city of Nexus 7, knowing she would never see it again. Ships from dozens of species moved through the orbital traffic patterns, conducting the business of galactic civilization. Soon, no human vessels would be welcome in these lanes. "Send a priority message to Earth," she said finally. "Tell President Harrison that diplomacy has failed. Tell him it's time for Plan B." Chen nodded and moved to the communications console. As he began encoding the message, Alina continued staring out at the alien ships. The Council thought they were ending the human problem by casting them out. They thought exile would force humanity to accept their vision of proper behavior and galactic order. They were about to learn how catastrophically wrong they could be. Asterisk. The shuttle's engines hummed to life as they prepared to leave Council space forever. Alina settled into her seat and began composing her final report as Earth's ambassador to the galactic community. In 90 days, humanity would be gone from Council space as ordered. But exile was not retreat. It was liberation. The real war was about to begin. Asterisk, the silent preparation 3 months after the exile decree. Admiral Sarah Mitchell stood in the command center of humanity's most classified facility, hidden deep within the asteroid fields beyond. Pluto, the facility, codenamed Forge, had been under construction for 15 years. Originally designed as a backup shipyard in case of alien aggression, now it served as the birthplace of humanity's revenge. The main display showed the construction bays where humanity's new fleet was taking shape. These were not the ships that had served in the colonial defense forces. Those vessels had been designed to work within Council regulations, limited by treaties and diplomatic agreements that restricted human military technology. The ships being built at Forge operated under no such constraints. Dr. Marcus Webb approached from the research section, his face showing the exhaustion of someone who had not slept properly in weeks. As humanity's chief xenotechnology specialist, Webb had spent the last decade secretly studying alien artifacts recovered from crashed ships and abandoned outposts. The exile had freed him to pursue research that the Council would have considered dangerously destabilizing. "Admiral, we've made another breakthrough," Webb announced, his voice tight with excitement and fatigue. "The Veltari energy matrices we recovered from that derelict ship are yielding results beyond our projections. Mitchell nodded without taking her eyes off the construction displays. "Show me." Webb activated a holographic projector, displaying a three-dimensional model of humanity's new flagship. The vessel was massive, dwarfing anything in the current human fleet, but it was the technology inside that made it truly revolutionary. The Veltari use crystalline energy storage systems that can hold exponentially more power than our traditional reactors, Webb explained. But they never figured out how to discharge that energy efficiently in combat situations. We have. Our new ships can fire continuously for hours without depleting their power reserves. The implications were staggering. Human ships had always relied on speed and tactical superiority to overcome larger alien vessels. Now they would have firepower to match their maneuverability. Mitchell allowed herself a small smile as she imagined the Council's shock when they discovered what humanity had built. "What about the FTL drives?" Mitchell asked. "Even better news," Webb replied, his excitement growing. "We've integrated the Drake to hyperspace tunneling technology with our own navigation systems. The result is jump capability that's 40% faster than anything the Council species possess. We can strike targets and be gone before they even detect our arrival." The irony was perfect. The Council had exiled humanity for destroying the Drakta raiders, but that battle had provided the technology that would make human fleets unstoppable. The raiders' ships had been salvaged in secret, their advanced propulsion systems reversed by human scientists working round the clock. President James Harrison's voice crackled through the comm system from Earth. "Admiral Mitchell, we've received confirmation from the Void Runners. They're willing to meet." Mitchell felt her pulse quicken. The Void Runners were a nomadic species that lived in the empty spaces between star systems, trading with anyone willing to meet their prices and asking no questions about their customers' intentions. More importantly, they operated completely outside Council jurisdiction and had access to technologies that the established galactic powers had never seen. "Prep the diplomatic shuttle," Mitchell ordered. "I'll meet with them personally." 2 days later, Mitchell found herself aboard a sleek stealth ship in the neutral zone between Council space and the galactic rim. The Void Runner vessel that approached was unlike anything in the databases of known alien species. It seemed to shimmer and bend light around itself, making it difficult to focus on directly. The Void Runner who boarded Mitchell's ship introduced herself as Zara, though the Admiral suspected that was not her real name. Her species appeared humanoid, but with skin that shifted colors like an oil slick and eyes that reflected starlight in impossible ways. "Your people interest us," Zara said in perfect English, her voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in Mitchell's bones. "Most species that get exiled from the Council retreat to their home systems and fade into insignificance. You are building warships. We're preparing to defend ourselves," Mitchell replied carefully. Zara laughed, a sound like crystal chimes in a light breeze. "You are preparing for conquest. Do not insult my intelligence with diplomatic lies. The question is whether you have the resources to succeed." Mitchell decided to be direct. "What would it cost to purchase Void Runner technology?" "Everything," Zara replied immediately. "Your species would need to commit fully to this path. The Council will not forgive what you are planning. There will be no diplomatic resolution once you begin. Are you prepared for that level of commitment?" Mitchell thought of the footage from Kepler Prime, of the colonists who had died while the Council debated proper procedures. She thought of Ambassador Rodriguez's final message and the years of human attempts to work within the galactic system. The Council had made their choice when they cast humanity out. "We're prepared," Mitchell said firmly. Zara's shifting eyes seemed to look directly into Mitchell's soul. "Then we will provide what you need. But remember, Admiral, once you unleash humanity upon the galaxy, there will be no going back. Your species will be forever changed." The technology transfer took place over the following weeks at hidden locations throughout the outer systems. Void Runner ships appeared without warning, delivered their cargo, and vanished back into the depths of space. The technology they provided was revolutionary, based on principles that human science had never encountered. Dr. Webb nearly collapsed from exhaustion as he worked to integrate the new systems into human designs. The Void Runners used dimensional folding technology that allowed ships to exist partially outside normal spacetime, weapons that could ignore most forms of shielding by attacking targets from alternate dimensions, sensor systems that could track objects across multiple layers of reality. "This is beyond anything the Council species possess," Webb reported to Mitchell during one of their daily briefings. "The Void Runners have been developing these technologies for millennia, while the Council stagnated in their comfortable bureaucracy." Mitchell studied the technical specifications with growing satisfaction. Humanity had always been at a technological disadvantage in their conflicts with alien species. They had compensated with superior tactics and training, but they had never possessed the raw technological superiority that would make victory inevitable. That was about to change. The first ships of the new human fleet completed their trials 6 months after the exile decree. Captain Lisa Park commanded the flagship U.S. Retribution, a vessel that represented humanity's complete break from Council-approved technology. The ship's hull was composed of dimensional folded materials that made it effectively immune to conventional weapons. Its engines could push it through hyperspace at speeds that would leave Council vessels far behind. "All systems are operating within acceptable parameters," Park reported to Mitchell during the shakedown cruise. "The Void Runner modifications have integrated perfectly with our baseline systems. We're ready for combat operations." Mitchell nodded approvingly. The Retribution was just the first of 50 vessels under construction. Each ship represented a quantum leap in human military capability, designed specifically to overwhelm the Council's defensive systems. But technology alone would not be enough to succeed in what humanity was planning. "Status report on the colony ships," Mitchell asked her staff. "All vessels are on schedule," reported Commander Torres from the Logistics Division. "We have 37 colony ships ready for deployment, each capable of establishing a fully functional settlement within 6 months of planetfall." The colony ships were the other half of humanity's plan, while the new warships would provide the means to carve out territory. The colony vessels would consolidate those gains by establishing permanent human presence on claimed worlds. Each ship carried advanced terraforming equipment, prefabricated infrastructure, and 10,000 volunteers ready to build new lives beyond Council space. But the most important element of humanity's preparation was taking place in the simulators and training facilities scattered throughout the outer systems. Every human with military experience was being recalled to active duty and retrained on the new technologies. Veterans of the colonial defense forces worked alongside fresh recruits, sharing hard-won knowledge about fighting alien opponents. General Robert Hayes supervised the training programs from a facility on Titan, watching as human forces adapted to their new capabilities. The soldiers and pilots under his command represented the best of their species, volunteers who understood that they were preparing for a war that would determine humanity's place in the galaxy. Asterisk. "The psychological profiles are interesting," Hayes reported to Mitchell during one of their secure briefings. Instead of being demoralized by the exile, our people are more motivated than ever. They see this as an opportunity to prove what humanity can accomplish when freed from artificial constraints. Mitchell was not surprised. Humanity had always performed best when facing impossible odds. The exile had united the species in a way that peacetime diplomacy never could. Every human world had contributed resources to the secret military buildup, and volunteers for the colony ships far exceeded available positions as the first anniversary of the exile decree approached. Scouts began reporting increased alien activity in the former human sectors. Veltari exploration ships were surveying abandoned human colonies. Zeph trading vessels were establishing supply routes through territories that had once been human. Space. The council species were dividing up the spoils of their diplomatic victory. They had no idea what was coming. Dr. Webb made his final report on humanity's technological advancement in a secure briefing room deep within Forge Station. The assembled military leadership listened as he outlined capabilities that would have been impossible under council restrictions. We now possess technological superiority over every council species, Webb concluded. Our ships are faster, more heavily armed, and more durable than anything they can field. Our weapons can penetrate their defenses, while their weapons cannot significantly damage us. In any direct confrontation, the outcome is mathematically certain. Mitchell stood before the holographic display showing humanity's new fleet. 50 warships that represented the culmination of human engineering and alien technology. Each vessel was a masterpiece of destructive capability, designed to deliver overwhelming force with surgical precision. The council believed they were punishing us with exile, Mitchell said quietly. They thought casting us out would force humanity to accept a diminished role in galactic affairs. She turned to face the assembled officers and scientists who had made humanity's transformation possible. They were wrong. Exile was liberation. They freed us from the restrictions and regulations that limited our potential. Now we will show them what humanity can accomplish when we are truly free to act. The final preparations were complete. Humanity's new fleet was ready for deployment. The colony ships stood by to claim new worlds. Millions of humans across dozens of systems waited for the signal to begin the next phase of their species' expansion into the galaxy. The Council's 90-day deadline had come and gone. Humanity had withdrawn from Council space as ordered, but they had not retreated to their home systems. They had used those months to prepare for a return that would reshape the galactic balance of power forever. Admiral Mitchell gave the order that would change everything. Begin Operation Reclamation.